always turning around. We're the ones they talk about, never touch the ground. A little bit different, but we love the sound. Got the world in our hands and we're holding.
You're welcome to another exciting time on Rush Team YouTube channel. In today's class, we'll be talking about how you can create tables in HTML. In our previous classes, we've talked about the introductory part of HTML, how you can create, how you can use colors, how you can style your sheet, the heading, the title, and every other thing. You can go check the video if this is the first time of you coming on or visiting our YouTube channel. If this is the first time, please like, subscribe, and share so that we can create more educational videos like this for you. In today's class, we'll be talking about tables, how you can create tables. What are tables? Tables are what developers use in what arranging or imputing data in rows and in columns. So in today's class, we're talking about how you can create tables in HTML and how you can style those tables. So if you're ready, we are ready. Let's get started. In our previous class, we talked about favicons. And in that favicon class, we talked about how you can create favicons using the what HTML. And so we are going to continue from our class, our previous class. So if you want to know more about favicons, you can go watch our previous video where we talked about favicon and how we linked it on this particular script. Now in this script, we already have the favicon, but now we are talking about tables. So this class is all about tables. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to, after the head, I'm going to go into what the body. The body, that is where we are going to create a table. And remember, I told you in our previous slides that when you have an opening tag, you also have a closing tag, not for every of the tags, but for most of the tags. So like the body, we have the body, then we are going to close what? The body what tag. Now, after the body tag, what we are creating now is what the table. So we are going to have the opening tag for the table, and we're also going to have what the closing tag for the table. Now we are going to close it. Now in this table here, we are going to define now that in the table, what do we have in the table? We have the heading, we have also the data in the heading, and it's arranged in columns and in what rows. So we are going to make mention. The first thing after the table is that we are going to say the table row, and this also has what? You also have to close what? The table what? Row. Now in closing the table row, you are now going to impute the different things that you are going to have on your table. Now, after the table row, we are going to have what? The table what? Heading. The table heading. In this table heading, we are going to have, in this tutorial, we're going to have the tutorial for table 1, and we are going to also have another tutorial for table 2, so that it will not be bulky, so that you understand every bit of it. Now, in the table heading, we are going to have, after the table heading, we are going to say what our table is going to be. So let's say the first thing we are going to say name, and we'll close the table what? Heading. And after the name, let's say the next one, we'll say age, and we are going to close the table heading. And the next one, we are going to say, let's say time. Time, and then we are going to close the table heading. Now, if you are going to be having just 3 headings in your table, so after the first 3 headings, you have to take the table row. You have to close the table row tag there. But if you want to create more than 3 headings in your table, you can write as many headings that you want to write. Do you understand? Now, the next thing that we are going to do now, that we are going to start imputing data for the headings that we already have. So we are going to have the open we are going to have the open table row again, because we are still arranging in row. Then we will go close, and we are going to close the table row. Then we start imputing our data. So what are data? So let's say the first data, TD. You can see that when we're talking about heading, we said TH, which is table heading. Now in the data is what? Table data, which is represented as what? TD. So the table data, the name, let's say the name is Amos Tank. Then I'm going to close the table heading, the table data for that. So that's for the name. Now the heading is going to be the data, table data for the second head, which is the age, let's say 12. Then we're also going to close that. Always ensure that you close it. And the time, table data, the time, let's say we are using 10 o'clock. Then we close it. So we are going to take this up now. Let's just arrange two data under the table what on this particular heading. So we are going to write another table row. We're going to open another table row. So sorry about that. We are going to have another table row. I don't know. Okay. I think that's where we'll stop. So we are going to have another table row. So let's just input other data in our table row. TD. Let's see map. So I'm going to close it. So the age, TD, and write 11. Then the time, I'm just going to put the random time there. Let's say 8. So let's go to our browser and see what we have there. Now we have the browser already, which is saved as index.html. It's already on our notepad. We are going to open it now. Now you can see the table that we just created. You can see the name of the favicon, which we're creating the favicon. You can see the table that we just created. You can see it here. Now, how do we style the table? In our previous class, I talked about that we have 3 ways of styling. We have inline styling, we have internal styling, and we have the external styling. So it all depends on what you are going to use. But for this particular tutorial, for this particular class, we are going to be using the external styling. That means we are going to create, okay, I had to delete the styles.css sheet that was here before. I deleted it. So we are going to create a new style sheet, an external style. We are going to create a new file in our folder. So what I'm going to do that is just I'm going to write file, save as on Rush Team, so that I'll put it on all files so that you can see all the files there. I'll call it styles.css. So I'm going to save. Now, after saving it, now we already have a file in that particular sheet. So we are going to link the sheet now to this particular index.html page, which I've already explained in our previous class. So I'm just going to do it again. So the linking now is going to be link rel is equal to file sheets, then href is equal to styles.css. I'm using styles.css because the name of the file which I created was styles.css. So I'm going to save. Now we have created this table. We are going to style this table now. Now come here. I'll say table, comma, table H, and the table data, I use the curly brackets. Let me say border, I'm going to use, let me use solid 1 pixel, then I'll use the border color as red, then I would close with the curly bracket and I'll say. Now let's see what it's going to look like. You can see now that we have a border now. The border, we created a border, and you can see that the border we have the border which is red, which you created. Now you notice that the border that we have is like double, so we are going to collapse the border. So how do we collapse that? We are just going to come here so that we just have one line. So I'll just write here border collapse. Collapse. Then I'll put that there. Then I'll save. So let's go back to our browser and let's see. Now we've collapsed the border. You can see now that we now have a single border. The next thing I'm going to do now, it looks kind of small. The table looks kind of small. So I'm just going to increase it. I'm going to increase it now. So if you want to increase it, then I'll say the width Let's say the width, I'll make the width 800 pixel. I'll say, let's see now. You can see now that we have the width 800 pixels. But we know you notice now that the tests on the data, they are all aligned to the left. So I want them to be at the middle. How do I do that? I'm going to write a CSS. I'm going to write CSS code for the table data. So what I'll do is that I'll come here, I'll come down here and write TD. Since I'm talking about table data, I'm going to open my query bracket. Then I'll write tests align, test align center. Then I'll close. I'll go back and see. You can see now that the test align we have what is now closed. Now, what if, for example, I want to change the background color of this particular table? If I want to change the background color of this particular table, I'll come here and write background color. Let's say I'm using gray, and I'll save. Come here, then I'll refresh. You can see now the background color is gray and all. Now, I might decide to, I might say, oh, I don't want this kind of border. I want to just make my border looks different. I want to use the border radius and all. So, for example, I want to do that, and I don't want to style just the entire table. What I'll do is that I'll come here. I'm just going to style just the TH and the TD, and I'm going to remove this border collapse. And now let's see what this is going to look like. Let's see what this is going to look like. Let's see if there's going to be any difference. Okay, before we check that, now you can see now, this is what it's going to look like. Now, let's make it a little bit more advanced. We'll now come down here. Let's say I'm going to write border radius. Border radius. Let me use 20 pixel. Then I'll say. You can now see that the border radius has changed the look of your table. So if this is the kind of table that you want, this is how you get this kind of table. Now, let's say, for example, you want to change just the color of your table header, and you want to leave that change the color of the table header should be different from that of the body. What would you want to do in that situation? Okay, let's go back to where we style the table. Now, I'm going to remove the border radius. Let me put back the border collapse. I'm going to put that back now. Okay. Now, let's say, for example, we want to change just the color of the heading. So I'm going to remove this entire background color. Come down here and write table TH. Sorry. Then the heading, let's say I want to make the heading to be what? Color, background color. Background color, let's say I'm writing pink. I'll save. So you can see now that we have a background color that is pink. Let's say we want to make what's it called? The data. Want to make the background color of the data. Let's say the background color Let's use green. So I'll save. And you can see now we have a different table heading, a different color in the heading, and we have a different color at the background. Now, you can decide to use different font families. You can decide to use different letters. You can decide to increase the height of your table. You can decide to do different things. You can decide to collapse the first row and the second row. You collapse it together. All of that, you can do that. That is what I will be explaining in our second tutorial video. We'll be talking about more on tables. That will be on table 2. So please, thank you for joining us on how you can create table on HTML. If this video has been helpful to you, please drop a like, share, and comment. Thank you. And if you have any questions, you can drop your questions on the comment section and you will definitely get an answer. Thanks for joining us.